Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of Yes Fantasy Baseball Weekly, exclusive to YesNetwork.com. I'm Ryan Rutherford. Joining me today is Lee Lipschutz. And Lee, let's get right into it. Roger Clemens, he's back. Big story in baseball. What's the fantasy impact?
Well, no one's doubting the Rockets' resume. I mean, he's certainly a great pitcher. He's going to get a lot of wins. But from a fantasy standpoint, I can't see him being an elite pitcher, solely because the transition from National League back to American League has hit many players hard, especially Randy Johnson.
Right. So what do you think are some things to expect from Clemens as far as the impact he's going to have in the fantasy baseball world?
Well, he's 44 years old. I mean, he's a competitor. He's going to compete, therefore he's going to pitch a lot of innings, but he also throws a lot of pitches, meaning he strikes out a lot of players as well. So you can expect hits, you can expect even a dynamite performance, maybe even no-hit bid, but that's only one game. He's going to be inconsistent, he's going to give up runs, and I don't see him going past the 5th or 6th very often.
Okay, well, one ace is returning, but two have gone down. Roy Halladay and Chris Carpenter. Halladay out about a month with appendicitis. Carpenter, bone spurs in that elbow. He's going to miss about 3 months or so. You know, these guys were taken early in fantasy baseball drafts. Obviously, their owners are depending on them. They're Cy Young caliber players. You know, how do you make up for the loss of two dynamite pitchers like that?
Well, first things first, with two Cy Young Award winners like that, there is no way to replace them from a fantasy standpoint. There's a reason why you drafted them first in just about every league, other than Johan Santana. What you can do in the interim is sort of get by. You have a Tim Wakefield out there, a knuckleball pitcher out of Boston. He's going to win games just solely on the team that he plays on. They have offense, they're going to support him, and he doesn't have a pitch count. He started off the season real strong. He got hit hard a little bit his last start, but he's a guy you can rely on. Guys like Derek Lowe, Kelvin Escobar, solid starters on good teams that can at least pick up the W's category and probably help you in an ERA as well.
Okay, and from a few injured pitchers, now we got a couple banged-up hitters, Joe Mauer and Ryan Howard.
Yeah, you start off with Joe Mauer. I mean, he's at not too good of an offensive position from a fantasy standpoint in catcher. So, I mean, anytime you have a quadricep strain that he has, it affects you as a catcher, and you have to be concerned from a fantasy standpoint. But there's not too many good offensive players at his position, so you sort of just have to wait it out. But what do you do in the interim?
Right. It looks like you just got to hit the waiver wire hard, find a catcher, somebody who's, you know, on a hitting streak or something, at least somebody who's got a starting job so you can fill in the time Mauer's going to miss. But I think the most important thing here is don't panic. Don't trade for a catcher. You don't want to give up an area, you know, and weaken your team just to get a catcher, because besides Mauer and maybe a few others, there really aren't that many catchers who are going to make that big of a fantasy impact.
Absolutely. And then we move forward to Ryan Howard. Guy led the league in home runs last year, MVP of the National League. There's really no way to replace 50-plus home runs in a fantasy lineup. Is there a way to temporarily keep yourself in the race?
Right. Well, you're not going to find a guy who's going to hit 50 home runs on the waiver wire. But what you can do is find a guy who's solid, an everyday player who's going to contribute and can maybe play for 2 weeks while Howard's on the DL. A guy like Kevin Youkilis, who's in a Boston lineup, you know, that's going to score a lot of runs. He's going to have RBI opportunities. He's going to be able to score runs himself. Another guy out in Oakland, Dan Johnson. He was on the DL in the beginning of the season. Now he's back in the lineup. He's got a regular playing job. He's basically, you know, you can use him the 2 weeks while Howard is out and get a couple home runs here and there and just fill in and try to ease the pain of losing a guy like Ryan Howard.
And also, if you have another outfield spot open, someone that can help you from a power standpoint is a guy, Jack Cust, who's really come on strong. He's been up for almost 2 weeks, has an enormous number of home runs so far.
So working the waiver wire is really important. It's something you need to do. You have to constantly assess the value of your team. So right now you have a few buy low, sell high candidates.
Yeah, we start off with a guy, Bobby Abreu, who's at the 240 mark. Playing on the Yankees, he's been struggling. I mean, the whole Yankees lineup has been struggling except for Jeter and Posada. But Abreu, he's a 300 career hitter. He's had 100 RBIs the last 4 seasons, 5 out of the last 6. He's a 20, 30 stolen base potential guy. You have to expect he's going to bounce back. He's started to swing the bat better in the Chicago series. He's showing signs that he's going to bounce back. And once the lineup hits at all cylinders, he's going to be in that 3-hole, plenty of RBI opportunities. He's going to draw the plenty of walks that he has done in the past in his career.
Right.
He's going to score a lot of runs.
He should definitely bounce back. And another guy who's going to bounce back, Scott Rowland on the Cardinals. I think this guy, you know, he's close to a 300 career hitter. He's good for 25-plus home runs a year. Right now, I think he's got 2. He's sitting with an average a little above 200. This guy is too good to be this bad. He's going to bounce back in a big way. Cardinals are struggling as a team right now. Pujols is struggling himself. Eventually, they'll all start to hit. So Rowland might be a guy you want to go out and get. Going into pitchers now, Tim Hudson, another guy. This guy, you might want to get rid of him now because he's off to such a great start.
I couldn't agree more. Tim Hudson, who was a 500 pitcher last year with an ERA hovering around 5. He's on a good team. The Braves are going to be in it to the end, but I don't know how consistent and how much you can really rely on a Tim Hudson.
Right. And then another guy possibly might want to unload, Jorge Posada right now.
Jorge Posada is 35 years old. Generally, 35-year-olds don't have career years entering their mid to late 30s. And Jorge Posada is batting around a 370 clip, leading the American League, similar to Joe Mauer last year, but Joe Mauer is almost half his age.
Right. So the bottom line here, it's important to constantly manage and assess your fantasy roster and work on areas where you need improvement.
Absolutely. And as far as Posada is concerned, I wouldn't really panic. He's a solid catcher. He'll give you solid value. He'll probably end up around the 300 mark. But again, it's a position that you don't really see much offense in. So if a deal comes around, you could probably pull the trigger on it if it helps you in a specific category.
Right. Agreed. All right. That's about all the time we have for now. Go to YesNetwork.com for all of your sports, Yankees, and Nets needs. For Lee Lipschutz, I'm Ryan Rutherford, saying we'll see you next time on Yes Fantasy Weekly.